morning, it's Tired Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. This is something that we need to keep a close eye on today because we have a moderate risk today for severe weather. Before I get into it, definitely hit that like button, hit that share button, and that subscribe button because this could be a pretty wild one. So before we get into it here, just saying, main threat is actually wind today. This is what our moderate risk is generated by. So this 45% area here. Also note the hatch risk. This could be winds up to 70 miles per hour or greater. So anywhere close to the Gulf and in the southern state and far into the southern states, I should say. South Georgia, South Alabama, Mississippi, maybe even parts of Louisiana. Can't even rule out southern Florida getting into the action here. You guys need to be on the lookout for damaging winds for sure. Not to say that we can't get embedded supercells as well that have their chance to produce tornadoes, some of which could even be strong as represented by this 10% hatch risk area. So definitely make sure we are keeping an eye on that. Then also we have the hail threat here. Hail threat is more existent off to the west, but I do think that this hatch risk has the potential to span a little bit further to the east, which would include more so Mississippi towards Greenville and Jackson, and even spreading all the way into southern Alabama here. But the main things we're going to be looking at today, especially when I get back from work and do this live, is covering the wind and tornado threat. We'll have a hail prediction poll. Hopefully things actually work this time because last night's stream got a little bit wacky. Anyone that was on there, I apologize for that. I don't understand what happened myself, but we're going to work on trying to get answers for that. But anyway, so look at the models here. And you know it's something when I'm actually looking at the low-level jet here for a change, because it's been a minute since I've actually been concerned enough by it. But here is a look by the time we get into the afternoon hours here. Low-level jet's already ramping up, but there is some convective inhibition. There is a little bit of a cap here that comes into play that would limit storm development early on. But the further we get into the afternoon here, the more these storms develop. And by the time we get towards 23Z and into OOZ, which would be later into the evening, that's when my concern really begins to ramp up here. And this continues as we get into the overnight hours. And then by the time we get into the late overnight hours and into the early morning of tomorrow, worst of this should be out of here. Still be some strong ones left over, especially towards South Georgia by this point. But we could be in for a pretty long, maybe even an intense day. There still could be remnant storms the following day, but we'll get into that in another video because I don't know if I've shown you or if you saw the early clip or just skipped ahead or not. But yeah, mentioned this yesterday. This could be a very, very long week. I'm going to see how many streams I can actually do. I'm going to go ahead and challenge myself, possibly against my better judgment, but we'll see what happens. Besides, I like getting to interact with you guys more. Anyway, this is a look at the mixed layer CAPE. This is pretty much what you would call thunderstorm fuel here. CAPE stands for convective available potential energy, and the higher the amount that you have, the greater the energy that's available for thunderstorms should they develop. So that being said here, this is about the time that we're at right now when we're making this video, and then getting into the afternoon, look at how rich this CAPE starts to get. We're starting to get up to about 4,000, even 5,000 joules per kilogram in some spots, I'm sure. And this, keep in mind also, this is the mixed layer CAPE. CAPE is actually most rich towards the surface. I like using the mixed layer for my own reasons. I like it more so because it lets you get a look into the entire atmosphere as a whole versus just looking at one particular level. Not to say that surface CAPE isn't useful, but this is my personal preference. But that being said here's a perfect example of a sounding later in the evening. This is around OOZ. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This is the surface CAPE right here. It's this top number right here that's in the pink, 4,719. Usually an explosive severe weather environment is around 3,000. Usually a suitable severe weather environment is 1,500. So that just goes to show you how much energy exists with this setup today. So this is definitely not something to mess with here. Also, this little indicator right here, CINH, that stands for convective inhibition. The higher the The higher the negative number, the greater the chance of these storms being inhibited and not having a chance to form. But negative 11, which is pretty low, you would really want to be in the negative. You'd rather see triple digits to have a shot at some real inhibition. But nonetheless, maybe we might get a chance of being spared here, but it's relatively unlikely based off of this right here. As far as I can see here, this is a decent hodograph. Definitely something to be very watchful of. In fact, all the parameters seem like they need to be watched very closely here. You have lapse rates around 7, 8s. Then on top of that, we have a downward cape of about 1373. So D cape is an indicator of damaging winds. Lapse rates can be a good indicator of hail and tornadoes. Basically, this is an environment that you're going to have to watch very closely over here. Again, this is over towards southern Alabama here. We're going to have to keep a close eye on that in the evening hours. The greatest area for tornado risk, though, is over towards South Georgia, particularly around Columbus. As of right now, we have really strong low-level energy right here, is indicated by the hodograph. Pretty similar deal. D-cape is a little bit lower, but this is earlier in the day. Towards the evening, we transition into definite what I would consider to be more of a damaging wind type setup, but tornadoes are still possible even with that. So pretty similar deal across the board here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because I do have to get ready for work. So as I go onward here, we do begin to see a downtrend a little bit, but towards South Georgia, it could be a pretty long night. By the time we get into the overnight hours, though, it looks like it's about done. And then, of course, we have to watch the following day for even more storms. So one other thing, there's a couple other things I'm going to look at, actually. One of them is going to be the significant tornado parameter here. You can't get wrapped up too much into this because of the fact that this gives an idea of conditions that are available, but if a thunderstorm doesn't even form over it, it's pretty much a moot point. But since we already know we're expecting severe weather here, it's not a problem. I wouldn't be too concerned about this right now. I'm just going to tell you right now, over towards southern Mississippi, I don't think the tornado threat will really start until later into the day. But if we go on to this sounding here around 21Z, I'm going to click on this pink area here. This seems a little bit more reasonable to be concerned with. And it looks like the low-level jet is really at its strongest around, I'd say, 21Z. Hopefully I can get off work at that time, which would be about 3 o'clock Eastern, because I might have weather coming my way as well. So a lot of things I'm going to have to be measuring out here, so to speak. But definitely looking like a very dangerous setup here. I'm seeing a couple of familiar analogs on here as well, so definitely something to keep an eye on for sure. As time goes on here, oops, can't keep this locked in place here. This is an interesting little setup here, but I think this is a little bit too far to the east here. That's too far to the east. This is what you would call a contaminated sounding here. Whenever you see these red lines tend to get over here. I can't go into full explanation with that because I don't have a lot of time, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm going to disregard this one for right now. Besides the parameters, when we looked at them, low-level jet doesn't persist that, well, it does persist that far to the east, but that sounding is invalid, unfortunately. Like I said, I could go into the details with that, but I just do not have the time, unfortunately. I'm not sure whether I want to disregard this or not. It's interesting. I'll have to see what this sounding looks like here. It's not contaminated. I'd keep an eye on this. Okay. So enough to keep an eye on for now. Elongated low-level area, so definitely something to watch. Other parameters definitely check out. So definitely something to be careful of today or this evening. But yeah, this is pretty much a general summarization letting us know this could be a long night tonight. No need to be scared. Be prepared. And it's a good day to be weather aware. I'm pretty sure the local news is also talking about this, so let's make sure that we're just finding any sort of way to be updated on the weather. I'll make posts where I can until I get home leading up to what will be our live stream here. So we're going to do what we can and get going after that. But here's the last thing we're going to look like. This is what the radar could look like, but we have a little twist with this here. We're looking at what's called updraft velocity. It's a little bit more nerdy stuff, but anywhere where you see some streaks here on this reflectivity thing is where I would be more concerned about tornadic development. So we're going to go a little bit later into the day. Actually, that area around 14Z that we were looking at earlier, I am concerned about that now. The fact that we're seeing those streaks. Oh my goodness. Oh wait, that's contaminated, and that's way too high of a helicity. I really hope that that doesn't end up being true. I really hope that this is contaminated like I'm thinking. And yeah, because that's a little bit too perfect of a sounding. But this is early in the day. Here's the storms firing in the afternoon. Storms reach my area because I actually live here in Atlanta, by the way, around just after lunchtime. And then, okay, here's a updraft streak right here, and then an increase right here too. So it's going to be a pretty widespread area that I'm covering here when I get home. So definitely a lot to keep an eye on. Oh my goodness, look at this. This is crazy. Oh my gosh, wow. So to any of my mods that I usually have on stream here, because they're also weather nerds, get ready, because this looks like it's going to be a pretty busy day for us. Could be a long stream as well, so I hope y'all are ready. But again, make sure you're hitting that like button, smashing that share button today. It's especially important with days like today. Let's make sure that we're keeping everyone around us informed. And let's also make sure that we are hitting that subscribe button so you can be notified of when I go live tonight. That being said, this has been Tire Metalhead Weatherman. You guys stay safe, stay weather aware. I will see you later this afternoon. Till then, have a good day.